I recently watched a great video from Thane Bishop on Hollow Knight, and in it he discusses the different ways fandoms protect their games. And of course, one of the examples he brings up is Outer Wilds. Outer Wilds fans are pretty notorious for wanting you to know as little as possible about the game. I know many people who feel like you shouldn't even talk about the core gameplay ideas in it. You shouldn't say anything. You should just pretty much say, hey, trust me. And I get it. I do think that would be an amazing experience to just know nothing. Outer Wilds is the kind of game where the more you know, the less discoveries you get to make. And those discoveries are so much fun to make. It really is a hard game to try to get people to play. For a while, I tried to do it in nondescript, non-specific terms, not talking about what's really in the game or always what the gameplay feels like, but instead talking about how it made me feel. And, that can be tough because when you pitch a game as it changed the way I think about existence, that's a lot of pressure for a video game to have, because then you're playing the game the whole time and you're like, when is this going to make me realize my place in the universe? And hopefully it does, but you don't want to put that pressure on the game. So you want to be careful on how you pitch it to people. I think sometimes Outer Wilds fans struggle to do that in some ways, but they work really hard not to do it in other ways. By the way, my recent approach has been to just say, it's really interesting. It's a really interesting game. I think that is great because it creates a promise that is easy to keep. I think even people who do not really like Outer Wilds will agree that it's interesting. It does interesting things. So if that's the expectation you have going in, then you'll be like, oh, that was interesting. And then hopefully all the other stuff will come with it. But yeah, as Thane is talking about this cautiousness that Outer Wilds fans have, he brings up the idea that, anytime he has asked someone who's played the game for advice or was playing it or seen streamers play it, like the response is always, you'll figure it out. Keep exploring, keep trying, in a way that can feel a bit toxic to those who just want to know what to do and are feeling frustrated with the gameplay and feeling frustrated with making those connections. Hearing, just keep trying, can be really annoying. And he makes the observation that some fans of Outer Wilds would prefer for you to stop playing the game than to play it by getting any sort of information or hints. And it's interesting because I assume people think I'm like that. My guess is most people would think that that is my thought about the game. And it's not exactly, but it will sound like it is. Personally, I think that Outer Wilds is not going to be for everyone because not every game is for everyone. And that's what makes Outer Wilds connect with certain people so much, is that it is designed for their sensibilities and their taste. And if it were trying to appeal to everyone, then it wouldn't hit as hard for those who it appeals to. It's just the way of things. It's how life works. We like specificity. I think there are people whose best Outer Wilds experience will be watching someone else stream it, or playing it on the couch with a friend who's giving them advice the whole time, or looking stuff up about it. However, I do think there is a specific Outer Wilds kind of playthrough of knowing very little, of hitting those moments of frustration, and then making those mental connections to overcome them, putting these bits of information together to solve things. That is the ideal experience. It is the experience of those who evangelize the game. It is the experience that gets people to keep talking about Outer Wilds 6 years later. It is why it is so many people's favorite game ever. That kind of experience of doing it on your own. I think that is a very powerful experience and a hard experience. But those discoveries, those connections, and how those discoveries are also tied into the story, that you have to connect with the story in order to make the discoveries. Like, it is just such a powerful and amazing experience. Again, not an experience for everyone, and that's okay, but it is an amazing experience. So as a fan of the game, I want people who could have that experience, who could enjoy that experience, to have that experience. I always get worried about jumping the gun, of giving information too soon when maybe they just need more time. And I think a lot of fans feel that way. There's another really great video that I watched called Outer Wilds is Hard to Get Into from T. Hallams. In it, he interviews Alex Beecham about the game and makes a really incredible observation about the structure of Outer Wilds and how it seems to be a sticking point for certain players. And it's not just that you can go do whatever you want. Of course, that might be part of it. Some people feel directionless, but it's more specific about how things are uncovered. In his interview with Alex, they go over the kinds of discoveries there are, which there are essentially three, which is surface discoveries, which are ones that you go to a planet, you see information, you don't really have to do much other than go to that place. Then there are hidden discoveries, which take a little bit more digging. It might be uncovering kind of a spot that you wouldn't normally look, or using some sort of information that you learned from the surface discoveries to get to a new place. A little bit harder to find. And then there are the secret ones, which these are the bigger pieces of information that have the most to do with making real progress in the game. And they often take connecting multiple threads together from surface and hidden locations and piecing that together to make those discoveries and have those big aha moments of, holy shit, this is what this means. And what T observed, and of course this is anecdotal, there aren't studies about it. It is what T noticed from watching people play the game. But what he noticed is that for the people who dropped it, he would check their rumor map from the point a little before they dropped it. And pretty much every time they hadn't discovered any of the secret locations on the map. They maybe had found a few hidden ones, but those big secret ones that make you feel like you're getting actual progress, that, you know, make you feel like you are putting a tack on the board of this means something, they didn't find any of them. And I thought this was a brilliant observation, and I've known a lot of people to drop off of Outer Wilds. In fact, most people I know have dropped off of Outer Wilds at some point. So having to be put in this way of, it's this lack of them making this big discovery, of feeling like they're banging their head against a wall because they haven't gotten there yet, and that's just not fun after you do 2 loops of being like, I haven't figured anything out. That gets really frustrating. So a lot of people quit there or stop playing for a portion of time. And having to be put in that way definitely was like, oh yeah, that is it. And it's hard that the thing that makes the game so good, of having those secret discoveries, if you help someone with it, then it won't feel as good to them for finding it. The things that are hardest to discover, if there's too much help, then it'll just like, oh yeah. I think also what's hard is so much of the story is discovered through having to solve puzzles. Like, you need to pay attention to the story in order to have an idea of what's going on with puzzles. So if you're not fully doing that and you're maybe relying on other things, or not fully paying attention to the text, like, you're just not going to have as meaningful of an experience with the game. It's just not going to connect with you in the same way. And that just is what it is. I think what's hard is I have known a lot of people who dropped off at that point, who stopped playing. Some people who I know love the game, who the game is a #1 game for, have done this. A lot of people I know have done this. They stop playing, and maybe they take a week, maybe they take a year. They take a while to get back to it often. And then they come back, they make that connection, and fall in love with the game, and then move forward. And so, to get back to Thane's original idea, it's not that I don't want people to complete the game, or to drop the game if they can't beat it on their own. That's not the case, because as I said before, I think that your most meaningful experience, depending on the type of person you are, and depending on what you value, could be a completely different way of playing the game. However, I would only recommend exploring those options if you're actually going to quit the game no matter what. And that's what's hard, is when someone quits the game, I'm usually like, oh yeah, okay, give it a year. Give it time. I'll wait. And I try not to put pressure of being like, when are you going to get back to it? I'm just like, yeah, that's fine. That's usually how I've approached it. And I think what's hard is some people will go back to the game and enjoy it, and others won't. And for those who won't, maybe you give them advice. But you don't know who is and who isn't going to do that. Maybe you can kind of guess if you know the person really well and be like, this is the sort of thing they generally value, so there's no way they're ever going to go back to Outer Wilds. And then maybe you help them through something if you think that they would like other parts of the game. But for a lot of people, sometimes waiting is the case. I don't know if they've quit forever or just quit for a little while. I think fandoms are weird things. Being a fan of something is weird because you feel like you owe it something. And maybe I do. Maybe I do owe Outer Wilds some things. I think I do. I feel sometimes like a steward of the game. I want it presented in the right way, and I want people to be able to experience it in the right way. And I think a lot of fans of Outer Wilds are like that. And we definitely make mistakes, and I think we definitely can put people off sometimes. But I think we are pretty good at preserving some of the things that make the game special. And we definitely talk about liking it too much. This is like my third dedicated video between my two channels on Outer Wilds. I've had other videos that maybe aren't dedicated to it, but are heavily focused on it. And then whatever, I talk about it every other fucking video. You know me, I can't help it. Well, I really don't want to ever come off as toxic. I do want people to enjoy Outer Wilds. And I think I want to put pressure on people, not saying that there's a right or wrong way to play it, but I do think it's okay to put a little pressure to say, this is the way that works for a lot of people. And this is the way that a lot of people really end up valuing it. And if that's not you, that's okay. You'll probably find a way to value it yourself if you want to. But this is a great way to do it. So yeah, I don't know. I think for other Outer Wilds lovers out there, keep trying to get people to play the game. But think about the way you're presenting it. And maybe also just say the truth of it. Instead of just saying, hey, you'll figure it out. Say, I think the game can be a really meaningful experience if you don't have guidance. And what's hard is sometimes you just need a lot of time. I know that won't help right now because you're pissed at just crashing into the sun again. But you might appreciate it in a year. If you don't think you will, then yeah, look something up. But as Outer Wilds is a game that, truthfully, you've heard it before, you'll hear it again, you can only play once, I think it's understandable to want to hold the cards close to the chest. So yeah, think about who you are. If you're someone who's struggled with Outer Wilds, think if you just need to give it another shot. But also, I don't know. I'm so mixed on it because because I don't want to just say, hey, keep trying, keep banging your head against the wall. You'll eventually love it, because you might not. But I also don't want to just say, go look something up, because you might not love that either. But try to know yourself. Try to know what you're cool with and what works for you. Anyway, I hope you're well. Bye.